So this is a demo for the penguin, and this comes from Spoon Graphics, which is a UK blog created by a graphic designer. He likes to make these characters. So I'm working on an 8x10 empty Adobe Illustrator file. I'm using like Photoshop, and basically to start, I'm going to start with an oval. I'm going to use the white arrow, the direct select arrow. I'll click to deselect, hover over the bottoms until I see a little square that represents the point, and then I'm going to flatten that. Having the smart guides on kind of helps me to control keeping things nice and straight, so that can save some time. Next, I'm going to make the penguin's belly, so I'm going to use another circle. And I can go ahead and grab from, if I hold option while I draw, I can make that come from the center outward. And that's about good. I'll just need to drag it down some. I'm just using my keyboard arrow keys to drop that down. So the next step is to copy and paste this circle, and the reason I want to do that is because I'm actually going to use my Pathfinder intersect tool to create this belly. I want to trim this piece off, so I'll copy paste, Command C, Command V, place it in position, shift click to grab both, and click intersect. So now I have that penguin belly. Next I'm doing the wing, and it's another oval. So I'll draw that oval. I'll use my black arrow to spin it and position it. And then once again I'm going to use the body to cut this piece off. So I'm going to grab the body, copy paste, Command C, Command V. I'll shift click to grab them both. This time I'm going to use minus front, so because this is in front of this, it's going to cut. So notice it's sliced right along here. So I'll option drag so I get two wings, and I'll use Object, Transform, Reflect. And now I've got them both. Next step is to make some feet. Feet are 3 ovals. So I could have drawn all 3 of those separately. My computer's being a little buggy. It's not changing tools always when I'm asking it to. Let's see if it works okay for me to complete this without having to stop. Alright, I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to rotate. And if it happens to you that, especially one thing that'll happen, you'll try to change tools and it won't change. And I'm noticing that's happened a few times where I'll go back to this one and it's not working. So we'll see if it lets me get through this. Hopefully it does. Sometimes the best thing to do though in that case is to just restart completely. Okay, so I could actually even align these to the top. So align. Right here is align to top. It actually lives up here too, so either place. And now I'm going to pathfind, and I'm going to use unite, which is going to make one shape out of it. I'll copy, and I could flip by reflecting vertically once again. It's not really very much different here though, in the way that I did my feet. He splayed his out a lot farther, and I guess I could rotate him a little. I don't know. I'll keep mine straight. Alright, so now I'm going to take both of these feet and I'm going to send them to the back. Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Notice the shortcut is Shift, Command, left bracket. Or for bring to front, Shift, Command, right bracket. So, that can be a really fast way to work. You should try that out. So the next step is eyes, and This guy's going to have some crazy triple eyes that we're then going to change with gradients. So they're going to look quite a bit different than they do when we start. So I'm going to draw ovals. 1, 2, 3, and I can always adjust their position or the size at any point too, you know, just to get that expression. For right now, I'm not going to worry too much though. I'm just going to make them. And then I'm going to go ahead and option drag, put this eye on this side, and then let's flip this one. It's more vertical on all these, and then we'll put this on this side. Alright, so if I want to align, I can go ahead and I can grab, actually, let's do this. So we'll group both wings. It's if you haven't already aligned, right? And then you're going to align to the top. Then you can group. I can go ahead and with these eyes, I would need to group, Command G. I'm shift clicking each one, see if it cooperates. There we go, group. And then I can go ahead and grab both of these guys and I can align them. I'll just align them to the top. They're not really moving. And then I'm going to group them. Feet too. Anything you have pairs of. If you want things absolutely straight, which, you know, don't have to be for his feet necessarily. But if I wanted to, I'd align group. Any pairs need to be a group. So see how these are all groups? Now I could grab all this stuff and I can align to the center. And that's going to put everything nice and straight. If you don't group though, the eyes would turn into a cyclops, right? And the feet would be 1 foot and the wing would be through here in the center. Okay, beak. So, I'm going to go ahead and make beak. It's a big oval. And then the bottom point is just pulled down. So click outside to deselect. Hover over with your white arrow, the direct selection tool. Pull the beak down. And then, if you want, you can align that too. Alright, so now we're ready to start with coloring. And to do this, we're going to be making some gradients. So the back body is a black to gray radial gradient. And I recommend starting with, in this case, we're not going to use black because this goes to see-through. So I think it's harder to fix that. It's easier just to adjust the color radial. So I'm going to choose purple radial, even though I know I don't want purple. And I'm going to drag a black swatch into the black. And then I'm going to drag a gray swatch. In this case, I want kind of dark gray into the white. And then I'm going to position that so that it's blending where I want it to blend. And I can also use the gradient mesh tool in the toolbar, and I can actually pull and kind of adjust that gradient however I want. I could spin it, but in this case I don't really need to since it's a radial gradient. And then I could even grab the center and I could control where it's going. And I kind of like having a little dark here. He didn't do that, but you know, you can really alter things. They don't have to be exactly the same as his picture. If I want to save that gradient, then I'll do that. I'll drag it. Alright, after that, we're going to start doing some of the features like the eyes. So I'm going to use, and actually mine are grouped, so I'm going to use the white arrow. Remember, white arrow will let you grab one item in a group or one point in an ungrouped shape. And I want kind of the same color, but I want linear. So I'm going to pick it and I'm going to switch to linear. And then I want the direction to be such that it's going to go dark to light. And so I need to spin it. And I happen to know that 90 degrees would work. I can also do it this way. So I can grab the tool and get that little spinny and spin down like that. And then I can even lift it up and kind of control when that color's coming in and how long the blend is. So, and anything I do there is also going to happen here. So I can also adjust it right here. So that's kind of nice. So negative 90 is what I would have typed in here just to do it that way. So, you know, but that's kind of close there. But I can just go, if it was 90, let's see, it would be exactly straight. Although it doesn't look very straight there. So I'm a little off. It doesn't really matter though. So you just generally want kind of a faint dark to light. And then on the other eye, you're going to do the same thing. So let's save this. I have negative 94. And oops, white arrow. Grab, choose the gradient. And I'm going to do my negative 94. So and then all I need to do is control where it blends. So I want more black and a little bit less of the gray. Alright, next step is the whites of the eyes. And so with the white arrow, mainly just because mine are grouped, if yours aren't grouped, you don't need to use white. Once again, I'm going to go for that purple and white gradient. And then I just need to change the gray. So I'll go in and instead, and actually two ways, I can double click and I can choose the color either from swatches this way and just pick it. I could also have dragged the swatch down into the color too, either way. But I want a little bit of gray there, and I'm also going to adjust it so that its shape is a little closer to the eye. So I'm going to pick the gradient tool, and then I'm going to pull the side area in and the top black up. And that's going to give me a nice little gradient that's kind of blending from dark to light. I can control how much of that shows too. So there I go. And I wonder if I could even just save this. I'm going to copy Command C. Let's see, I'm trying to be really lazy here. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to grab the other eye. And I'm going to choose that gradient. And then I'm wondering if I can't just paste my dimensions in. Nah, it doesn't look quite the same. So I'll go back to 100 and I'll do it the long way. Although maybe I could adjust it. Let's see. It's hard to be decisive there, but yeah, actually, that works. So I'm just trying to get them to look similar. Alright, this next one is the belly, and it uses a gradient that's kind of similar to the one that we used on the eyeballs, the white eyes. It's white and gray, and you can decide how much white and how much shadow there is. And if you want to, you know, maybe make it a little less dark, you can drop it down too. After that, we have wing, and wing is a gradient mesh. So this is completely different than the other gradients. I'm going to use the white arrow because I have my wings grouped. I'm going to fill the wing solid black, and then I'm going to use the gradient mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and click and put a little grid down. And from there, I'm going to choose the color gray that I want. As long as it's selected, it'll work. So I can just pick. It's going to look slightly different compared to where I put that little point. But I can just choose a variety of nice soft shading. And now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go to my white arrow, fill my wing solid, throw my mesh down, choose my color. Alright, next, beak. Beak is also a mesh. So remember with the mesh that you always have to start with a solid color fill. So you don't want to leave it white. You want to put the base color that you're going to use. And I'm going to say I'm going to use orange. And then I'll put my mesh in. And I can put in my color. So I want to go kind of yellowish, and there I go, I have the mesh in. Notice the stroke went away, and this little guy ends up at the end with no strokes whatsoever. So at the end we'll take them all off, but one thing that happens when you put a mesh on, the stroke goes away forever. So if you want a stroke, the thing to do would be to copy. Before I did this, I should have copied the beak and then had a copy with a stroke and no fill. Alright, so there's little nostrils, and those are simply circles, 2, small and medium, and they're placed on the nostril. I'm not going to do that step. This is getting kind of long, and I think I'm just going to go for the hard stuff for the rest. These eyes are a light to dark gradient. So I'm going to go ahead and grab them with my white, oops, I don't want to mesh there, with my white arrow. And I can go ahead and pick that dark to light gradient here. I just need to change the direction. So I want it to go from light to dark. So I'll go ahead and use this. I'm going to spin it. Let's see, where is it? Okay, so that's pretty much what it is, but it's too extreme, so I'll need to adjust the color. So I don't want quite so dark. Let's see what that looks like when I deselect. Maybe, but not quite. Oops.
Esther Park, please report to the front office. Esther Park, to the front office.
Okay, so that's a little bit more noticeable. And then I'm going to save it. And it's 90 is my angle. So I'm going to put it on there. And then I can use just the 90. And if I want to adjust it, you know, of course I always can. You can just hover over there till you get the little arrow, adjust it, pull it down so you kind of like it. Now my eyes are looking a little different, but mainly it's because I have a stroke on those. So let's see them without the stroke. Oops. So I just grabbed everything, put stroke to the top, said none. So that's what they look like without the stroke there. You know, and I might go back in and adjust the color a little more. Possibly, I'll keep doing that. I keep forgetting that it's grouped. So, you know, if I want to avoid that, I could also just ungroup there. That's a little nicer there. It wasn't smooth the way it was displaying. Alright, so last for color is the feet. And they just have a linear gradient that goes from orange to kind of yellow. So I'll go ahead and grab. And I could really, you know, do a variety of things. I could go with this gradient, which has orange and yellow, but it has extra, so I would throw away some of it. And then I would just adjust it so that it's the direction that I want. And then adjust it, you know, kind of set it where I want it to go. Adjust the length of it. I think in this case it's a little long. I'll save that so I can easily put it on the other foot. And this angle was 92, so I'll just say 90 just for the heck of it. So it's similar. And then I'm going to grab all of them and I'm going to remove the stroke. And then any place where I have gaps, I want to definitely fix that. So I'll scoot this over, so using the white arrow because I know my wings are grouped. So I'll just go ahead and, actually, you know what? Sometimes that'll happen. Best thing to do, since this is grouped for me, notice how when I grab one, I grab two. I'm just going to ungroup it for a little bit. Then I can use the black arrow, so I don't have to worry about moving points by mistake. Okay, so nostrils, you guys can do those on your own. Beak has a little drop shadow, and it is an effect, stylized drop shadow with an offset of 0 on both the X and the Y. So it's really a soft, gentle drop shadow. The wing or the feathers are kind of fun, but they have quite a lot of steps, I have to tell you. So here we go, feathers. First you draw one. Then you choose a gradient, and I might just go ahead and I think this might be faster. I'm going to choose a radial white to gray gradient. I'm going to switch it to linear. I'm going to make the direction so that it goes dark to light, and that would be about 90. Oops, that's backwards, so I would have done negative. I could also flip it here though, so negative 90 or reverse gradient. Now the white that I have is solid white, and I actually want see-through, so I'm going to double click. I'm going to drop the opacity to 0, and now I have a gray to see-through gradient, and that's what I want for my feathers, so that when I deselect, I have that look. Next, I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to make a row of these guys. Now, your computers don't have a lot of RAM, so I wouldn't make hundreds upon hundreds. You know, you might want to make your feathers kind of bigger, have a little bit of space between them. Because I've seen a few people that did so many feathers, and I ended up more than I needed there, that did so many feathers that their computers really just, you know, practically had a heart attack and tried to crash. Alright, now I'm going to grab them all. I'm going to align them. So go to align to the top or the center or the bottom. It doesn't matter. They're all the same size. And then distribute so they're even. So I want this spacing, the horizontal, and the lines represent the space. So I'm trying to get these spaces kind of even. So now those are even. And remember, if I wanted them to be tighter or looser, I would move a feather in or out and then just redistribute. Or I could go the opposite way too. If I wanted them a little tighter, redistribute. Alright, now I'm going to group. So Object, Group, or Command G. And I'm going to start to make all the feathers that are going to fit on this little guy's body. I think I'm going to move him up a bit so that my feathers don't get onto him for now. And as I make them, I'll option drag, and I'm going to stagger them so that they're like kind of like fish scales. So they're not exactly lined up, just right, right on top of each other. And you can distribute. You can't align after this step, but you can still distribute. So you don't have to worry exactly about, and plus they're feathers, so if they're not exactly straight, who cares? Because there's something there. Don't have to necessarily be exactly straight, but I can go ahead and grab them, and this time I'm going to distribute this spacing, right, going that way. So it's this one. The lines represent the spacing. And so now I've got my little feather look. And once again, if I wanted more space, I would simply drop or raise one up and then distribute again. And that's going to give me more space. And I kind of like that, just like that. So I'll grab them all and I'll group them, Command G. And I'm going to use another Pathfinder tool. It's here, it's crop. And it kind of uses a shape to cut a shape, just like minus front, although it puts it within the shape. So let me show you. I'm going to copy the belly, so I'm going to do Command C, Command V, and I'm going to place the belly on top of the feathers. Belly has got to be on top or it doesn't work. And then I'm going to grab them both. Be sure you've grouped your feathers first. Can't be loose, they need to be a one. Then the crop command is here. And it's not going to, yours might take a while to process, unfortunately, but there we go, we have it cropped. And the beak's going to be, on top or under it for a moment, but we'll fix that. So it's right there, it's looking pretty good. We can always make it more see-through here too. So I could go in, select it again actually. I could drop the opacity a bit so that it's softer. I might even do that even more. Have them just be really faint and just kind of show up. The second step is to warp them, and to be honest, you can do this step if you want. I think it still looks good without the warp too, but here's how you do it. So you grab them, you go to Object, Envelope, Distort, Make with Warp, and you set the warp style to bulge. And then you can preview it so you can see it. And see, it does give kind of that belly, gets a little more dimension. So what I would say is try to get the feathers so they kind of curve with the belly, I don't particularly want mine to be warped too much, but you kind of go with what looks good to you. And click OK. And then they're too big now. The feathers are outside the belly, so we're going to crop them a second time. But before we can, we have to actually go ahead and expand this effect so that we get the paths and points back, because the Pathfinder tool will not work with an effect. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to say Object, Expand, and OK. And notice the paths and points are all back like they used to be. That's what I need in order to pathfind. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did before. So copy, paste, Command C, Command V, set your penguin belly on top of your feathers. If you want to, nudge them at all, you can kind of do that to kind of see. And then grab them both and just choose crop. And so now we've got our feathers. And so we'll place them And then, and that's interesting, mine are actually a little off. It's kind of a bummer. I'm going to undo to before I did it. And I have a feeling that I cut mine off a little. So yeah, see what I did? Be careful about that, so you don't run into the same problem I ran into. If you need to, you could even make this just a little bit bigger. It's not going to hurt anything. And then set it on there, and you can kind of, as you're hovering over it, just, you know, make sure that you see everything. I was trying to avoid getting cut off bottom feathers, so that was why I did what I did. I moved it up as far as I could. Okay, one more time. I'm going to make this just a little bigger. Now, you must cooperate with me. Okay, so I'll grab them both and I'll crop. And now I'll place. So since you have nostrils, be sure you grab the nostrils too, but you're going to send the beak forward. And the shortcut, remember, is Command, Shift, right bracket. So that's kind of a nice way to do it. So check that out. If you can't do it, don't manage it, you know, Object, Arrange, Send to Front. And then you can go ahead and save it. Remember, name it last name, first name, Penguin, and you're good to go.